Hey guys, this week we're going to be installing a hitch on a minivan. Stick around. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of BS with AJ. As I said before, this week we're going to be installing a hitch on our minivan. Our minivan is a 2007 Honda Odyssey Touring. So that way, if you have the exact same model and everything, I'm going to be sure and put a link down in the description below as to where you can get the hitch and all the stuff that you're going to need to install it. But before we get started, if you like videos like this, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and consider supporting BS with AJ on Patreon so we can do bigger and better projects for you guys. Let's get started. Alright guys, so now we're going to be installing a hitch on our minivan. It's a 2007 Honda Odyssey, and I know what you're thinking, why are you installing a hitch on a minivan? Well, I don't have a truck, and I'm tired of borrowing people's trucks. So anyway, I've got to haul some stuff around from time to time for the shop, and I've got a four-wheeler and a lawnmower I need to move from place to place from time to time, so I'm going to be putting this on. It's the best option I got. So, it may be a little windy, I apologize. Alright, so in the instructions here, it tells you some of the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a ratchet, a torque wrench, a socket extension, a 9-inch one it says, 11/16 socket, 19mm socket, and a 10mm socket. You also need a flathead screwdriver. I'll add one more thing to the list, actually two more. I definitely suggest having some type of wire brush to help clean out the threads and the weld nuts, because if it doesn't have a cover on it, some of them have a cover on one side. It'd be the driver's side. Mine does not, so I can't show that coming off or anything like that, but some of them do. So that, I guess that's what your 9mm, or your 10mm socket and your flathead screwdriver are for. Mine, all the holes are exposed, so basically I'm going to I've got a wire brush I ran through there already, and then you're definitely going to want to have some kind of WD-40 or something like that to help lube up the holes a little bit. And I definitely suggest, especially if yours is like mine, it's been uncovered for years, I think you need to get a tap. Now it says what size screw it is in here, so I'll be sure and put a link in the description for this particular one. Yours may be different, so you need to look at your what size screw it comes with. Mine comes with a M12 1.25 by 35mm bolt. So I went to the store and I bought one. I got lucky, they had it in stock, thank goodness. But I'll be sure and put one in the put a link in the description below of where you can get this particular one. But again, you want to make sure that your bolts are that size. If you don't know what size thread they are or anything like that, go to your local hardware store. They should have a little chart type thing. I want to call it a chart. It's basically you take your bolt with you and you can screw it into which one you think it is and just kind of test around a little bit, and it'll tell you what size you need to get, and then you'll have to go get the tap to match that. But like I said, we're going to be cleaning out all the rust and stuff inside these threads. They're pretty bad if they've been setting out for years like mine is. Mine's a 2007. I'm assuming they've never been covered up, so that's a lot of years worth of rust getting up there. Anyway, so let's get down to it. We'll go ahead and I'll show you tapping out those holes and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so here's the hardware it came with. So we've got this little wire thing. I went ahead and put this on there. It's a carriage bolt. There's a little flat piece of metal with a square cut into it. That's where your carriage bolt will sit in there. And then your nut that goes on it. Those four things are going to go together. Those are going to go on the driver's side. And then you have four of these bolts that go directly into your frame, and you'll be using these washers with those as well. So we'll just kind of keep these to the side for now. Alright, so I've got my 19mm socket and a ratchet here. I've got the 11/16 socket here. And then I've got my tap. You want to make sure and get a tap if there's a lot of rust in there. You have to excuse all the noise. It's a little windy out here and I'm right by the road, so anyway, so here's the tab for this particular size bolt that came with it. You want to make sure that yours is the right size, the same size as, get the tab that matches the bolts, what I mean. Anyway, so I've got the tap here, I got some WD-40, and I've got this tool here that goes with the tap so you can help tap it out. But one side has the muffler in the way. I'm sorry, not the muffler, it's got the exhaust pipe in the way. So this doesn't work. I ended up using this, and then after I was fighting with this for so long, I found out that the 8mm wrench fit it perfectly. So I used the ratchet wrench on it, and it helped a lot. So anyway, so let's go ahead and get under the vehicle, and I'll show you where these holes are and what I'm doing. Alright guys, so we're underneath the van right now. This is, right here on this side is the back of the van. This is where your bumper is. This little plastic piece, that's the edge of your bumper. So basically you're going to look underneath here and you'll find all these holes under here. And this one here has threads in it, and this one here have threads in it. The other ones don't. So these have them welded nuts in place right here. So what I've already done now, I've already taken my wire brush and I ran through there, and I kind of messed up the wire brush a little bit trying to do it. But I just basically just stuck it in there, moved it all around. Then you got to kind of fight it back out. Oops, sorry about that, guys. Anyway, so I already did that with both of these, and then I went ahead and squirted some WD-40 up through here to help get all the dirt and stuff out of there. You don't want to use, WD-40 is going to help lube up the hole, and it'll also help get the debris out. So now that that part's done, I've got my tap here. Well, okay. I've got my tap here, and I'm just going to kind of start it by hand here. Just kind of wiggle it around until it gets started real good. You don't want to mess up the threads that are already there. I'm probably going to struggle with this now that I'm filming it, of course. There we go. Now I've got it started. Alright, so I'm kind of doing it by hand just a little bit to get started. Now once I get to the real rusted parts, you're going to have to get out your wrench or something to kind of twist this, because you'll need a little bit of leverage. But you do need to be careful. See right there. Okay, so I can't do much more from there. That's pretty tight right there. So now, like I said, mine ended up fitting the 8mm wrench here, so I can just take my 8mm, put it on here and tighten it up a little bit. And when you start feeling resistance, you need to slow down, put it in reverse, back it off a little bit, then go again. From time to time, you're going to want to put some WD-40, squirt it up through these little, on the tap you'll have 4 different little slots here, and I like trying to put some through there to help get that up inside there a little bit more. You don't have to put it on as much as you would if you were tapping the hole in a solid piece of metal. These already have threads in them. You're just kind of cleaning the threads up. But there is quite a bit of rust in here, so you do want to add some WD-40 or cutting oil or whatever you want to use. I've got WD-40 on hand and it works fine, so that's what I'm using. Or any other penetrating oil or lubricant for that matter, I guess, really. I'm starting to feel quite a bit of resistance now, so I'm going to slow down. I'm going to back it up a little bit, which I've been going back and forth anyway. But I'm going to take this WD-40 and squirt through there, and I'm going to try not to get it all over the camera. But let me see if I can readjust you real quick. That way I don't get WD-40 all over the camera. Alright, I got the camera most of the way out of the way now. So anyway, let's shake up the can of WD-40. I'm trying to do this without blocking the view here. Need to get another can. It's about empty. You see all that brown coming out of there. That's all that rust that's inside of here. So that's what we're trying to clean up right there. So let's see if I can do this around the camera now. Alright, so that's how you go about cleaning all that out. And then I like to go ahead and spray some more WD-40 in there to get out any more debris that's left in there. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to this back hole. And then we'll get back to you here in a minute. I'm going to do that off camera because it's kind of boring. Alright guys, this is your passenger side. I've already went ahead and tapped all these holes out and everything, so they're good and clean now. Now the problem I ran into was the tailpipe is directly under where these holes are. Now you're probably going to fight with this just like I did a little bit until I come up with a pretty good solution that got it out of the way. Alright, so I'm going to move the camera a little bit, so I hope it don't get you dizzy. So, alright, so here's your tailpipe. We'll follow it this way a little bit, and then it comes to this bend. There are a couple of hangers that hold your tailpipe in place. So what I did, right here, that's one of your hangers. It's got a rubber grommet up here that attaches to your frame up here, and this is your tailpipe. So I put a ratchet strap right there where it connects. That's a welded on piece there. And then I stretched it over across. Trying to crawl under here and move the camera at the same time. Up to another part of the frame over here. So I didn't pull it real tight. I just did it just enough to pull that out of the way so that way I could tap that hole. But now that we're done with that, we'll go ahead and take that loose. We'll get that out of the way. And I'll show you how much that was in the way. Sorry for all the movement, guys. Alright, let's see. As you can see, the tailpipe is directly underneath here. So I was trying to push it by hand across here and hold it and try to do that tapping at the same time, but it just didn't work. So that's a good way to do that. So let's go ahead and start installing this now. Alright guys, we're back over here on the driver's side. These are the two holes that we tapped out earlier, this one here and this one. You can just barely see it in the frame right here, but this one and this one here. So now we have these two that are ready to go. This is going to be our other hole we have to put our third bolt through on the driver's side. I'm not sure why there's 3 on this side and only 2 on the other, but we're going to install it the way they say to, just to make sure it holds up as much weight as it's supposed to. So this is our hole that we're going to go through. You'll notice that these 3 are in a straight line. So that's the one we want to put our extra carriage bolt through. This is what they're calling the access hole. Alright, so the 3 things that came with this part to get this done, well I guess 4 if you count the nut. You've got your fish wire right here. You'll see it's got like a little spring on one end. You'll just uncoil this real quick. Alright, we got that uncoiled. And we're going to take the spring end, we're going to put it through our hole that we want to bring our bolt through. Alright. And you'll see how it's kind of sticking out right here. We're going to pull it through that hole right there. It may take a minute, but that's the game plan. Alright, so we got that through now. Alright, so here's our coiled end here. What we're going to do is take this flat piece right here with a square in it, and we're going to slide it over this. Now the reason these coils are on here is because we're going to take this carriage bolt, the one with the square shoulder on it. I don't know how well you can see it, but there it is. This actually threads onto this. Alright, see it's threaded on here now. So that way it holds it in there as we're pulling it through. So we're going to pull this through. We'll take our square piece, slide it in like that. And we'll bring our bolts up through there. And there it is. Now we've got our carriage bolt sticking down here. And all you got to do is unscrew the wire here, which is going to be a lot easier to do without the camera in the way, I feel like. Oh, I'm threading it back on. I'm going the wrong way here. That worked pretty good. So yeah, what I did was I pulled pressure down a little bit on the spring and then just kind of spun the nut around, or the bolt around. All right, so there's our carriage bolt right here in place that we're going to need for this side. And we're going to be putting those two other bolts through this hole and through this hole that you can barely see here. All right, so we're going to start with the passenger side though, because we have to get it over the top of the tailpipe. All right guys, so we're actually ready to put this on now. We're going to start with the passenger side and we're going to slide it over the top of the tailpipe and then put our bolts in place just loosely by hand. And then we'll move over to the driver's side and work on those. Now this weighs a little bit, so it may be easier if you got two people. We're going to take this part right here, slide right over the top of the tailpipe, like that. And we'll go ahead and get our bolts in place. Let me readjust the camera here. Alright guys, so these are the two holes we're going to be putting our bolts through. You want to make sure you have your washers. Let's see if you can see here. Make sure you have your washers in place before you get started. Otherwise you may forget to put them on like I just did. And you have to do it again. Anyway, so we're going to take this, slide it over the top, right here. And we're going to line up our holes. And my hand's probably going to be in the way as I try to put these bolts in. But you know what I'm doing. I'm just putting bolts in place here. Because it's probably a lot easier if you have somebody helping you. I do not. Now you don't want to get these too tight. We're just going to get several threads on there. That way it's going to hold the weight of this off our tailpipe. Now we can still move the washers around, and it's also got the weight off our tailpipe. So let's move over to the driver's side now. Alright guys, we're over here on the driver's side. Now I went ahead and put this on. This is the one that we fished through that hole right here. I went ahead and did it first because I needed, well, one, it's loose. You want to start with this one, but I had to do it before I can get the camera over here because it was right where the camera needed to be. So we've got that started there. We're going to go ahead and line up our holes here. Do the same thing. Just kind of put these bolts in place here. Once everything is pretty snug, we can go ahead and start tightening all our bolts up. Alright, so they say that you need to use a torque wrench for this, and I'll probably agree with them. I am not going to though, because I don't have that. So I'm just going to tighten them down real tight. That's what I've done on all the other hitches I've put on my vehicles. But if you're doing somebody else's, you need to make sure they're torqued down to the specifications that they suggest. Alright, those are about as tight as I can get them. We'll go ahead and go to the other side and tighten them up as well. Alright guys, we got our hitch installed, so now we're going to go ahead and put our receiver in and install our ball as well. So if you've never done that, we'll show you how that works as well. So first thing we're going to do is, this is a 3.5 or 3 1/4 inch drop or a 2-inch rise. It says on this side right here, or 3 1/4 inch drop or a 2-inch rise. We're going to actually raise it up higher because our van sits lower than a truck would, and it's going to have our trailer sitting down at an angle. So we're going to go ahead and put this on. They sell different receivers. You can put in just a straight mount on there, or you can have it lower like this, or they got all kinds of different stuff. So anyway, if you want to, you can go ahead and peel all this stuff off. Let's see how easy it comes off. And we'll just, oh, okay, it comes off pretty easy, so I'll go ahead and pull it all off. Let me see, where's the edge of that sticker? Alright, so you'll see here it's got these two holes on this side here, on each side here, one on this side, one on that side. We got us a pin here that'll go into it, so we'll pull that sticker off as well. That one's not coming off near as easy, but whatever. It also has this this pin right here that you're going to be putting right on this. If I can break that, oh, that's not zip tie. Okay, never mind. It's just a bread tie. Cool, that's easier. I thought it was a zip tie I was going to have to break. Alright, so basically we're going to take this, put it in, put our pin through, and then take our clip, a little piece there, and do that. Alright, so it's pretty simple. If you've messed with trailers before, you know how to do this part. But I'm going to show you installing the ball, and basically I've got a really old wrench here. It's really old. It's 1 1/8 on one side, 1 1/16 on the other. The 1 1/8 is what fits the ball that I've got. I got a 1 7/8 inch ball here. So we'll just go ahead and we'll loosely put it on here, and we'll tighten it down once it's on the once it's in the hitch, because it'll be a little easier. Be sure your lock washer's on there. We'll just kind of do it by hand for now to get it started, and then we'll go put it on the hitch and tighten her down. Alright guys, we're here. We're just going to take this, and there's a hole here on each side of this as well. We'll just slide it into where a hole meets, slide our pin in, and slide our clip over that. And that holds that in place right there. So now we're going to go ahead and tighten up our ball. Like I said, mine, the one that I got has a, it's actually a little bit smaller than 1 1/8", but it's not quite 1 1/16", so it's apparently metric. I don't have any metric wrenches that big, so, alright. Got that good and tight, and we're ready to go. Alright guys, we got everything installed now. We installed our hitch, we got our receiver in there, and we got our ball attached to it. So we're ready to tow our trailer now. I hope this helped you out if you've never installed a hitch before, or if you've never messed with trailers at all before. So I definitely suggest that you get a tap whenever you're doing this, because these bolts went in way easier than they would have had we been fighting it. When I installed one on my car before, I didn't get a tap for it, and I fought it for a long time. So I definitely suggest making sure you get a tap that fits the bolts that come with your setup here. I'll be sure and link one down in the description below to this particular setup here. And make sure you run that through there. Use plenty of WD-40. It ain't going to hurt anything to have a lot of oil on there. So do that, get it real nice, and it'll go on pretty easy like mine did. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and consider supporting BS with AJ on Patreon so we can do bigger and better projects for you guys. I'll see you next week.